listeners. Today we are going to kind of dive back into our discussion. We talked a little bit about plastics last week, and we want to kind of talk about it more with the focus of conception and having a baby and talking more about all of that topic.
Yeah.
Just like what's kind of involved in that. And Robin's got a lot of information that she's been looking at that I think is going to be really valuable. And don't turn it off if you're not like ready to conceive, or you're like 60 and you're like, there are no babies in my future.
Yep.
Because I think that there's going to be some like good advice for you to maybe impart to other women or to share along with them. And just like plastics in general and detoxing is going to be great for like anyone.
Yes.
So,
yeah. That was one thing that I was regretting after we wrapped up our last podcast. I was thinking, I really wish I would have shared with people that, you know, there is a way for you to find out what is my burden looking like right now. Because there is testing for that. You're not going to find it in a traditional clinic, but in a functional medicine clinic, there are urine test kits from companies where this is what they look at. They can look at your environmental toxin burden, and they can look at things like glyphosate. They can look at plasticizers. They can look at BPA. They can look at all of that. They also, if you want them to, can look at other toxins like heavy metals and mold toxins. And so they can do all of them, or they can do part of them. But this is something that most traditional clinics, they know nothing about. I know I didn't, and they didn't offer it at Mayo. And nor was I aware how much this can impact us. And a lot of times when people are not feeling well, maybe struggling with fatigue or struggling, like I just can't lose weight, or there's cognition, like brain fog, those kinds of things. A lot of times you have to start wondering about toxins or fertility challenges. We talked last time about the connection between even testosterone levels and fertility when it comes to high levels of plasticizers, and that's been studied and documented. So, I was kind of remiss that I didn't share with people that you can actually test these things.
Yeah.
And it can be done, and then you can go into detox mode and retest them to see where I'm at.
Yeah.
And it's possible to do detoxes. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about, what do you do to detox? But also you have to think about your environment. And we talked about that, I think, at length last time. There are lots of places that we can start limiting toxin exposure.
Yeah.
I just had coffee with a friend, right? And so you can ask, I'm going to stay here cup, not the cup that's got the plastic lining. It's a paper cup, quote unquote, but it's got plastic lining on the inside of it. So let's just get the real mug, right?
Yeah.
Or bring your own and have
a lot of places will reward you for that as well, because if you go to the co-op and you just fill your mug, you get a discount if you don't take one of their cups. So there are places that will reward you for doing those kind of things, because it's good for the environment. It's good for them too. It's not another plastic thing that they have to buy.
Yeah.
Just really quick, there is a place that I went to this week. I was talking to you about it yesterday, but there's other places in town that I'm learning about, even in Eau Claire, like places like the Riverflow Refillery that have these places that you can buy products and just bring your own glass container to refill stuff. And I like the nature of that business, because they're thinking beyond just themselves, but they're thinking about the environment, because by buying things in bulk, then they're able to bring us these products, and like we are eliminating all of this plastic when we go to places like that and just refill items instead of just continuing to purchase like plastic after plastic after plastic.
Yeah, that's really great. So me thinking about, we got to talk about detox. We'll talk a little bit about that. But then I thought, when's the most important time to be thinking about that? And it's really preconception. So we thought after we talk about that, we'll kind of jump a little bit into preconception. So make sure you hang in there and we'll get to that too. So important details when it comes to detox. So one thing that comes to mind is sweating, right? You get toxins out through sweating. So, and if you leave that sweat on you, you're going to reabsorb it, right? So exercising, getting outside, doing really hard work, that's all wonderful. And it's actually a way that your body releases toxins. And it's one of the most gentle way. And in some toxins, that's the only way you will get it out of your system. So sweating is a really good thing. So exercise, right, naturally makes us sweat, but also sauna. And I know a lot of people are getting into sauna, right? And there's been plenty of studies looking at, especially cultures where it's really common and kind of like part of their everyday life to do sauna. And there's so many like really big benefits health wise when you do sauna. And most of them come when you're willing to do sauna like 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. So it is pretty rigorous, but there are really affordable saunas out there. Mm-hmm. And Monique and I have the same one, but it's a collapsible one. You literally can bring it with you if you needed to, or you can put it up in a bedroom kind of space. So there's little tent saunas. We can maybe even put a link in the show notes or whatever. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you're getting one that has low EMFs, right? You don't want to be microwaving yourself. And so you want to look into the quality. But, you know, I used to think like, oh, it's going to be $10,000 to get a good sauna. Well, that's just, and it's going to be wood, and where am I going to keep it in my house? And that's just not the case anymore. Thankfully, you get a nice sauna that's really pretty affordable. Mm-hmm. And so to be getting a really good sweat, that might take 20 minutes, depending on the person. Yeah. Sometimes if you're really poor at detox, you might not be able to sweat for the first while. Yeah. And so, but don't give up, because as people do it more, they will find, oh, I'm actually able to sweat now. And that's a really good sign, actually. So just get a good sweat. And then hop into the shower, wash those toxins down the drain. If you manage to do a cold shower, that's even better. We've talked about that in the past, just the benefits of hot cold therapy. Yep. So sauna is an easy one. And if people don't like doing supplements and don't like all the rigor of a big detox, that's a nice, easy one, right? And it really can target every type of toxin, mold, environmental toxins. So that's a nice way to do it. Do you use your sauna much?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't used it in maybe I've used it like once in the last year.
Ah.
Maybe. Yeah. Gary uses it like every day.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. That'd be a good thing for you.
I buy these things and then I just don't use take the time, like the red light therapy. He's the only one who uses it. Yeah. But
it's so good. Yeah. So that'd be good for you. Because it helps with balancing the autonomic nervous system too. I mean, there's more reasons than just detox to use sauna. So it's just a thought.
I think I'll tell you later why I didn't use it.
Well,
it's like
I love
sitting.
mine.
It's like the sitting on that thing and just like the pressure and just with certain things that I was like dealing with. And so it's just like not comfortable for that either.
Sure.
So no.
Yeah. I love mine.
Yeah.
But I have to say in the summer when it's really hot, I tend to use it less, but any other months I'm using it quite a bit. But so that's one easy one. Other things to think about, there's different stages of detox that your body goes through. And there's different areas or ways your body gets rid of toxins, urine, stool, right? Those are the other two big ways, the kidney and liver. It does a huge amount when it comes to removing toxins from the body. It puts it into your bile. You release it from the gallbladder into your colon and then out the colon. Okay. And so those are two big pathways. So we think about, okay, how can we support those different pathways? So I wanted to give like just highlights, little things that people, if you wanted to add it in. And then if people wanted to know a very specific detailed, like how would Dr. Robin do a detox herself, I will, if you belong to my full scripts, which if you go on transformingthetemple.com, you can apply to be a part of my full scripts. And that's where you have access to look at different protocols that I do. And I'll put one in there for environmental toxin detox. So people can kind of see, well, what would that look like? But
I love that website too, the full script, because it has access to so many different supplements and you get like really good discounts on them too. It's like, I think it's like 20% off the first order and then it's like 15% off after that. Yeah. And they have everything. Don't they have like toothpaste and they have like a bunch of
They have lots of stuff really that you can get in there. Yeah.
Stuff. Natural stuff.
Not all the brands I think are high quality. So I will put that out there. So, and that's where I I've tried to put out my protocols so that people at least know the ones that I use.
Yeah.
And I would still recommend that people use the Supco app.
Okay.
So you can put a brand in there and they'll give you kind of a rating on their quality. So that's a nice way to go, oh, I'm seeing this brand is a lot cheaper. Is this one good? And I'll do that and I'll put it in there and see if they've rated it. They haven't rated every brand, but a lot of them. And then you can see, like, how does this rank compared to others? A 0 to 10 scale.
Yeah. What website did you say that was?
It's an app called Supco. Suppco.
Cool. And then is that the one that you can like scan the products to and then also like see like how well they are matched up to other companies and check on like third party testing and all that? Okay, cool.
Yep.
I think I was seeing like advertisements on Facebook for that recently.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's really cool because it showed that it's not just the company is saying like, oh, this supplement is very good.
Right.
But this is like third party tested to make sure that, oh yeah, this is like
good so it's a company that doesn't have any
like
financial benefit from supplement companies. There's no kickback to them. And they really just want to help people sort through the mess out there. Yeah. And so they've kind of come up with 29 different things that they look for in a high quality supplement company. And they kind of rank them then based on that. And so it's nice. So you could literally put in like CoQ10 and then it'll give you all kinds of brands. It will compare their company rating, but also the cost per dose, all of that, which is so nice.
Yeah.
So that's a nice tool for people to use. So you could do that, find yours, and then you could go into Full Scripts and find it that way and get a good discount on it.
That's a good tip because I think that so often people are worried about that, right? It's like, am I just peeing my supplements down the drain?
Yeah.
Or are these actually like good? And
are you absorbing them? Is it really like, is it what's on the bottle? Really what's in there? Yeah. I worry about all of those things. Is there heavy metals in this? Is there, So you've got to, it does make a huge difference. And a lot of people naturally want to pay the least amount that they can, right? And so, and you want to be a good steward, but you also don't want to buy garbage. That's a waste too. So it's a nice way to help you sort through that.
That's cool.
So I will get busy putting in kind of my protocol that I would use for patients who see me or for myself, because I'll do kind of a detox every 6 months or so. Okay. So I'll put in there what I like to use. So if you're looking for a little more guidance, but in general, first phase of detox that happens in the liver, I think about antioxidants, B vitamins are important, and glutathione. That's probably the one that a lot of people might not think to use, but I think about using that in phase 2, which is oftentimes where things get hung up for a lot of people. 1, diet wise, and 2, genetics sometimes get in the way. And this is a lot of times where I see people get stuck in detox because they genetically maybe have what we call a SNP. And so their enzymes are slow. And this is usually really heavily weighted upon different amino acids. Amino acids come from protein. And so I would say if you're working on detox, you may want to consider taking an amino acid supplement on the regular, making sure you're eating lots of good protein. You could, one of my favorite products that I'll use is from Designs for Health, and it's called Amino Detox. And it actually targets the specific amino acids that a lot of people need to help with detox in particular that they're short in. So I'll use that. The other thing I think about is phase 3, everything getting into the colon and flushing out. Things that I like to use to help with production and release of bile would be like milk thistle, dandelion root, artichoke. Those are really helpful. And then bowel movements. Like if you're not pooping, you're not detoxing. So if you are constipated by default, you are not a good detoxer. So I would, number 1, fix that. So whatever you need to do, whether that's magnesium citrate, taking high dose vitamin C, good amount of fiber, a good probiotic, like all those things. Or if you need more help beyond that, then I'd be like, well, you better go see somebody who can help you and not just a traditional practitioner who's going to give you Miralax and send you home. Like we got to figure out
to a gastroenterologist. Then it's going to be a 8-month wait or whatever.
There's so many things we can do, but we might need to do a deep dive looking at your gut and some other things, or we might need to deal with your nervous system or other things. But that's essential. If you're not pooping, you are not detoxing. So we would want to make sure that that's working right. So those are the key things I start thinking about when I'm thinking about a good detox protocol. And then I think about toxins once they're getting released from the liver and the gallbladder. You want to sponge those up and flush them out. Right. You don't want them to reabsorb through a leaky gut wall. And so a lot of times I'll use binders such as charcoal or bentonite clay. There's tons of them out there. A lot of times they're literally called binders. One that I use a lot is like GI Detox or one that's called Ultra Binder by Quicksilver. I like that one a lot. There's different binders in there that can help with heavy metals as well as environmental toxins and things. So anyway, so if you're looking for kind of a detox plan, I think it's good to do that every 6 months or so. But the other thing I was thinking about though is preconception. A lot of people don't realize, and I was reading this interesting stat. So you have to understand that it takes about 90 days for an egg to mature to ovulation ready. And that for sperm, it's about 73 days to maturity. So it's in that 3-month window before you actually conceive that egg and sperm is being formed. And that 80% is what the study was showing, actually multiple, of a child's risk for chronic disease is actually being programmed pre-conception and in their first 1,000 days after conception. And a lot of that groundwork is being laid, and even the ability for that egg to be healthy, to implant and not have miscarriage, all of that is that 3 months leading up to intercourse and conception happening. So we need to start thinking about that. It's more than just, let's take a prenatal and hope for the best. And people don't realize it's not all the woman. That we need to be thinking about what are we doing for the men too. Right. And we talked about that last podcast, right? Men having issues with fertility, poor sperm quality and sperm count. And it all had to do with plastics. So we need to really start thinking about, if you are thinking about wanting to have a family, in the next year or so, I would actually at least 6 months ahead of time, start thinking about, okay, what are we going to start doing to build a healthier life for us and for our family? Because 3 months from now is maybe when all of a sudden we're really making the egg and the sperm that's going to make our baby 3 months after that. So, and you don't want to be detoxing and all of that when you're pregnant. All those toxins are going to cross the placenta and actually get into the baby. So you want to be doing this all ahead of time. So if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have done testing. I would have looked at my environmental toxin loads. I would have been doing nutrient testing. I would have been looking at my gut flora, because your gut flora as a mom actually passes on to your baby. And so I would have been looking at all that stuff and doing a detox plan a good 6 months ahead of conception. And you have to think about if you're looking at your environment and started thinking about, okay, well, how can we get pesticides out of our life? How can we get plastics out of our life? You are then setting up your child to have a lower toxic life, right? You're setting them up for health their whole life, and that'll be their norm. A lot of people think about, well, after we have kids, then I'll start getting my act together and we're gonna live healthy. It's so hard. You are much better off figuring that out ahead of time, getting yourself in the best health you could ever be in, and set the lifestyle that you want, and getting all that laid out ahead of time. Then you conceive. That is when you want to do it. So I just wanted people to start thinking a little differently about, like, these are, if you really cared about it and wanted to invest, you had the finances to do it, there are tests you could do to kind of see where you're at. We then can help you work on detox and then make sure you got all your nutrients in place. Does that make sense?
So good.
So I thought maybe even talking about nutrients, right? Because I know for me, it was like, well, just take a prenatal. Anyone is totally fine. But it's way more than that. One thing that I think that's really important, I would actually have both men and women taking a prenatal.
Interesting.
Yeah, because for men, there's a lot of nutrient deficiencies that cause poor sperm quality and those things too. So I would actually have them both be taking prenatal vitamins and different nutrients we'd be thinking about. So one, we already talked about high quality products, right?
Yes.
So number one, make sure that what you're taking is actually bioavailable and high quality. It is what it says it is. It's third party tested, all of that. And the Subco app can help you with that. But I'd be thinking about your B vitamins like folate. I was trained to be like, yep, women have to be on folic acid. Make sure they're getting tons of folic acid. And in one sense, it's true. And you want to prevent neurotube defects. So there's a lot in the nervous system that you need folic acid, but it's actually not folic acid that you need. You need folate. And about 40 to 50% of the population has a genetic variant that cannot take folic acid and make it into methylfolate. And so they are not used. Methylfolate's the active form that your body can use. And maybe you don't have trouble with it, but your baby might. And I think that's where a lot of these troubles with neural tube defects actually occur. And so we need to make sure if you're taking a prenatal that you're taking a methylated form of methylfolate and B12 also, so methylcobalamin. And so I'd be thinking about that. So look for that. And like how much should you take? I would probably err from like 800 micrograms to 1,000 micrograms a day. And then choline is another one. That's one that I never heard about when I was getting pregnant. Did you hear much about that? Or is that something you've heard about, choline?
I think so, actually. Like it rings a bell.
Okay.
Yeah.
So choline, and a lot of times I'll talk about it in the form of phosphatidylcholine.
Okay.
It actually is important for cellular membrane health and brain health, then neurologic health for the baby. It also actually can help with a lot of other things, even detox, bioformation, all of that. But most prenatals have like little to no choline. So you either want to find one that has a good amount of choline in it, and probably 300 to 500 milligrams would be a good place to aim, or you're taking a separate supplement.
Okay.
A good food source for choline is actually eggs. But if you're sensitive to eggs, that can be a trick.
Yeah.
So then you're definitely going to want to, or liver, which a lot of people don't like to eat. Yeah. But beef also is a pretty decent source, but I actually like to supplement. So yeah. And studies, so there was like a 2018 study that showed maternal choline intake of almost 1,000 milligrams improved infant cognitive function.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really important for cognitive development. Another one that's really important for baby's brain is omega-3s.
Yeah.
And
I was just looking at that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are that news, thankfully, is getting out.
Yeah.
And there's different types of omega-3s. There's EPA and DHA. You need both, but brain development, I really think heavily on the DHA, and I try to get a 1-to-1 ratio between the two. And I would try to get 2,000 milligrams a day. I usually split it up, and I'll do 1,000 with breakfast and 1,000 with supper.
Yeah, I do see it just really quick. So I was like looking at, there's like these Metagenics. It's like, have you heard of that company?
Oh yeah. It's actually one of the brands that I put in my stacks that I recommend for patients. Yep.
Because when I typed in prenatal vitamin packs, it popped up with Metagenics, and it's like this little bag that you take, and it has like all of these ingredients in it, and it did have choline in it.
Nice.
And it made me think that, because like I went to a chiropractor at the time that I was like getting pregnant and like working on that. I can't remember if I did it after, or it might have been, it was probably after, but they recommended these specific like pill packs. And I'm thinking it was kind of like that, where it was just like a high tested quality product. And so when I looked at them, like, oh yeah, it does have choline in it. And I can't remember the exact brand, but I'm pretty sure it was a good one.
So that's nice if it can capture them all together in one little pack. Although a lot of times they're coming in plastic.
I know.
So that's the bummer. So if you're willing to do a glass bottle and just open them up and put them in your little plant planner thing might be better than a plastic bag, but sometimes that's like the easy route, right? You'll at least take it if it's in a little baggie. So you gotta, but to each their own. But vitamin D is another one. So, and these are kind of no-brainers for a lot of people, but it just needs to be said. And for women, I'm trying to get their blood level to be between, ideally, I'd be aiming for 55 to 80 for a blood level. And the amount it takes to get there is different for every person. Yeah. So I usually, most people on average need about 5,000 IUs a day of vitamin D3.
Okay.
But that's sometimes more than what some people need, and other people need 10,000. So it's worth checking so that we can get those levels right. It's extremely important for even hormone production, immune regulation, many, many things. But vitamin D is another critical one, and you want to make sure you take that with K2. Most of the good ones are going to have K2 in it already. But that's one thing that I'll oftentimes see.
Is it K3, right?
No,
I think
K2.
Really? DT and
it's D3 with K2.
Oh, okay. That's what it is. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So vitamin D3 with K2. And it is, if you get your levels between that range where I was recommending, it does show lower miscarriage risk and better IVF outcomes.
Okay.
And then there are lots of vitamin D receptors throughout the reproductive tract, and it does support ovarian function and sperm quality. Magnesium is another big one that I would make sure people are taking. It's helpful for progesterone production, sleep, blood sugar regulation, stress resilience. That brings up another thing though. If I could go back, I probably would have worn one of those blood sugar monitors for a couple weeks just to see where I was at. And if you, especially for people who maybe have like mom or sister that has a history of gestational diabetes, or there's diabetes in your family, for you to know that you have good blood sugar regulation and that you're not already showing signs of insulin resistance before getting pregnant, you're going to want to fix that and make sure that your blood sugars are spot on before you get pregnant, so that you're avoiding gestational diabetes. And because those things can be handed down to your baby.
Totally.
And so if you fix that metabolic dysfunction that's happening at the mitochondrial level, you're going to prevent it in your baby. Yeah. So that's so important. You can be setting them up for obesity, diabetes down the road if you don't get it fixed before you make that egg. Because you hand over your mitochondria, your baby gets 100% of their mitochondria from you, from mom. That's what's in the egg. There's no mitochondria in the sperm. The sperm is only giving DNA. Okay. So the mitochondrial functioning is going to come from mom. So any dysfunction is going to come from mom. So you want to get those ducks in a row ahead of time. Yeah. So I think it's wise, if any of that is in your family, or maybe you're on the obese side, I'd be doing the blood sugar monitoring, see, do I have any signs of insulin resistance right now? Working with a provider if you need help with that, seeing like, am I showing signs of that? Because there's blood tests that can be done as well to help us navigate that, and getting that in order before you're making that egg. Yeah. So people don't think about that. The other thing I'd think about is CoQ10. It's important for men and women, especially important for men with sperm motility. And it does show improved egg quality, especially our risks go up as we are in our upper 30s for women, especially too. So CoQ10, that really helps with your mitochondria. So 200 to 600 milligrams a day is what I would be looking at. The other thing people don't think about is just your vaginal and gut flora. Like, what is that looking like? And taking probiotics to help set that up. Even because, as we get to like 36, you remember we'd do that vaginal swab to check to see if bacterial vaginosis is there, but also to check if groupie strep is there. And because otherwise, if group B strep is there, which is just a shift, overgrowth of this bacteria that then can give baby infection, they're going to want to give you antibiotics then when you're in labor, which then impacts the baby, impacts your flora. It's just this, like, you want to avoid that if you can. So if you can be thinking ahead of time and getting your flora in order. So I'd be on a good, probably a women's vaginal probiotic. There's one from Microbiome Labs that I like. I'm trying to remember what it's called now. You're on it.
Yeah.
Vaginal Balance, it's called. That would be a good one to consider. And that's a really nice one. Because everything shifts when you're pregnant. A lot of people struggle with yeast infections and bacterial vaginosis when they're pregnant, but also group B strep. So it can help kind of protect your flora so you stay in a good place. Other things are iron, of course. And what was interesting is even just getting your ferritin tested, which is kind of an indirect measurement of your iron stores. Ferritin levels under 40 to 50 impairs ovulation, even when people have a normal hemoglobin level. So if your iron is really low, we'll start to see your hemoglobin drop. And a lot of times providers are only looking for that to see if your hemoglobin's too low. So if we look at ferritin, that'll be a better marker. And if we can make sure that we're kind of above that 40 to 50 range, that can actually help with ovulation. And in pregnancy, you deplete your iron stores really quickly. A baby needs a lot of iron. So repleting that and making sure that your prenatal has that. Iron bisglycinate is a gentler form than the ferrous sulfate. And you want to pair it with vitamin C to help with absorption. It also can help with constipation because sometimes iron can be constipating.
Yeah.
So the other thing to think about for men, just to think about that for guys, because we oftentimes don't talk about it. So zinc is really important. It actually zinc deficiency can really reduce sperm count and testosterone levels. So making sure that they have enough zinc. So 15 to 30 milligrams is enough. And you want to balance that with copper. So zinc and copper balance each other. If you overdo your zinc, you'll bring down your copper levels and vice versa.
Okay.
So it's nice to check those to see good sources of zinc, beef and pumpkin seeds. I love pumpkin seeds. So that's a really good source. Carnitine. So carnitine actually powers sperm motility specifically. And studies show that 2 to 3 grams improves sperm count and movement within 3 to 6 months. So again, it's like, let's start thinking about this ahead of time, right? And then selenium and vitamin D. So these are antioxidants that protect sperm from oxidative damage. About 200 micrograms of selenium and 400 international units of tocopherols, which are the non-synthetic form of vitamin E, are important. And it protects your DNA from damage in the sperm. And that's a major contributor actually to miscarriage and unexplained infertility. And so just thinking about that, different things that people can do. The other things I'd be thinking about is just lifestyle.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like setting up what kind of things do we want for ourselves? And how can we get that set so that when pregnancy and children come, we have this good foundation?
Totally.
I'd be thinking about how can we limit toxins in our life? Even like, I think people get pretty relaxed on like alcohol or cannabis use or caffeine, or let's think about those things, let alone like look at how toxic our soaps and our makeup and our shampoos and all of that stuff. Like go through the work of finding the least toxic options.
Totally.
Do you use EWG or the Yucca app very much when you're looking through your products?
I don't know.
Oh, how do you know? Do you know?
How do I know? It's a good question. For me, I think that a lot of my knowledge has come just kind of from working at the Menominee Market and just kind of being around the products that they used. And so that's kind of what kind of registered in my brain. So I'll kind of like look for those things and be like, oh yeah, I know that brand. So it's more just like from brand recognition of places that I trust. Yeah. Now, does that mean that everything at the Menominee Market is healthy? No, unfortunately it doesn't. And that is because that particular establishment establishment is buyer owned or like member owned. And so like if people want Sprecher's root beer, they can get Sprecher's root beer if they request it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that everything that they have is, you know, good or whatnot, but I've just seen different things. So I just have like certain brands that I kind of know and trust. But I mean, it's always good to check up on those and make sure that they haven't got bought out, because that happens
exactly
too.
what
know,
I was
like
thinking.
Mrs. Meyer's method, you know, I know that things have come up with them and that things have changed. So it is important to kind of like just stay up on that too, and make sure that you're, you know, seeing if, you know, big corps have like bought them out or whatnot. But yeah,
for me, it's just I need an easy button. Like, especially I'm sitting there at the store and I need to know, oh, is this a good one or is it not? You know? So I really like to use, there's 2 apps I use. One's the Yucca app, YUKA. And then the other one is
EWG, right?
EWG.org, or they have an app. I think they call it Healthy Living, if I remember right. But they both have scanners on them. So you can literally scan the product in your hand, and then it gives you a safety rating. And then you can dial down into the ingredient level, like what is the concern. And sometimes it's like, it's a high allergy risk for a certain essential oil, you know, and it's like, well, I know I don't have any problems with peppermint oil. This will be fine for me, right? So not a big worry. Sometimes it's like, reproductive harm or endocrine disruptor or cancer risk. Like, well, okay, I don't want to buy that. So otherwise, reading through all these chemicals and knowing all of them by heart.
That is what I do though. Because I remember we had to get some sunscreen in Door County, and unfortunately I had a bunch of good ones at home and we just totally forgot. So we went to the store, and it's hard over there because they don't have a lot of great places like locally. Like you have to drive like a half hour, so it's like an hour round trip to get to the Walmart that would have like probably some healthier options. But I was looking at every single ingredient, so I went with one that was not great, but it had like way less ingredients than the other ones. So you just kind of I just like process of elimination myself personally. I just had to be like, these are really bad and this one's bad, but it's going to have to do for this moment.
And sometimes that's what you have to do. I'm sometimes surprised. Like I'll be thinking, oh, this must be better. I scan it and it's not, you know, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I think it's nice because I have not memorized every chemical under the sun. And I mean, I don't think anybody could. And so some of them I think are okay. And then I'm like, oh, wait, this is not okay. So I think it's helpful to have those tools, and that's what they're there for. And so it's nice to just start going through your products at home to see, okay, what do we need to clear out of here and switch to new? So that's a perfect time to do that. And then start establishing a good sleep routine. And get that set. That helps reduce stress levels, helps regulate blood sugars. I mean, there's just so many things, help balance your hormones in general. So get a good sleep routine. Start exercising regularly. That's going to help keep your blood sugar levels adequate. And the women that I would take care of in pregnancy, if they were active and then they stayed active in pregnancy, like they did so much better in their pregnancy. They had much less for complications. The delivery itself always went smoother, faster, less complications. I would tell women, look, you're preparing 9 months for a marathon that's coming up. And so if you don't stay active during this time, delivery is going to be a nightmare. Like it's going to be the hardest thing you have ever done. But if you stay active and continue to stay healthy during this time, you'll go through it, no problem. So people need to think about that. So, and don't think, oh, once I'm pregnant, I'm going to start working out. It does not work that way. So let's get ourselves in shape ahead of time. And then, so clean up the food, clean up your products, thinking about eating whole food and trying to buy organic, thinking about the dirty dozen, maybe clean 15, because not everybody can afford nor find organic all the time, but there's certain ones you really want to try to avoid if you can. And just working on trying to get to be your healthiest self you can, and use that year as you're preparing so that your baby and your whole family has the best like start possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you were thinking about like the Lord was downloading some things for you this morning of just even like spiritually and emotionally preparing yourself for pregnancy and having a family. What kind of things was he sharing with you?
Yeah. One of the things was just working on yourself. And just like emotionally working on your emotions, because a lot of times people talk about things being passed down generation to generation, whether it's anxiety or generational curses, things like that. And so just like really working on that, like inner healing and like really taking that time, because like once you have a baby, once you have a kid, like as much as you want to say like, oh, when they're in the night feeding, I'm going to be reading my Bible like right there on my phone or whatever, the amount of times that you go to Instagram instead, or you know what I mean? It can be just like so easy to be distracted. Or I mean, for me, when I was breastfeeding, I was watching a lot of the show Parenthood. That was my show that I was watching. And yeah, that was fun memories back to that. But yeah, it's like, it's choosing those things instead of like over the Lord. And I just think that if you really just keep working on your relationship with the Lord before you get into pregnancy, before you know, have the child, and just like really like that connection with the Lord is so vital. And you're going to need it because the things that are happening in the next generation, and it's like, it's so crazy. Things are changing all the time. Things are so different now. And we have to just like equip ourselves like with the Lord, because he's the only one who's going to give us like wisdom and insight on how to direct them and guide them. Because a few episodes I was talking with Rachel Stewart from Cedarbrook. She's the next gen pastor there. And we just had a really good conversation about just dynamics and like working through things with our children, and how we can't be trying to do these like old archaic things that were done on us, because things are rapidly changing, and the Lord is the one to direct that. Like if we're trying to figure it all out, we can't. And like, we need his direction. So just like really like working on ourselves, like going to him and just like, if asking him, like search me, Lord, is there areas like of bitterness, unforgiveness that I am needing your help with to like pull these roots out of, because we don't want to be passing that on to our children either. You know, just like really, I mean, in every single area, just asking the Lord to just like cleanse us, because we don't want to be passing on judgment. We don't want to be passing on just like all of these things. And so that really comes with taking time with the Lord and just seeking him.
I want to just add, like, I would say the hardest time to maintain intimacy with the Lord, one of the hardest I ever faced, is in that early motherhood stage.
Absolutely.
Because your time is so captivated by this little one, and you're sleep deprived, and so preparing yourself for developing that close intimacy with the Lord, so that you don't have to somehow strum something up. It's like, no, he's my close friend as I'm going into this journey, and I know I'm going to be stretched. It's like a friendship. Like if you had met someone and you kind of know them and you're kind of friends, and then all of a sudden you're thrown into mommyhood and you have little time for them, and you're being stretched thin, right? Are you then in that season going to be reaching out to this person you don't really have a close relationship to, and you're just trying to build it now? Now is not the time. That's when you reach out to your close friends who are like, yep, you're going to see me in my yuck and my like sleep deprived state, but you are familiar, you're close, I'm going to bring you in, and we don't have to talk for 3 hours to establish a friendship. It's just there. That's kind of what it's like with the Lord.
Correct.
You have that, and you get thrown into stuff. It's like, nope, he's right there. I know how to turn to him.
Correct.
Even in this time where I'm being stretched and I need him, but I also don't need to now go find him. He's already here, and I have that tightness with him. He's going to help me navigate this season of crushing and stretching and all the things that happen.
Yeah, everything's being stretched, right?
In more ways than one, like physically, emotionally, mentally. And if you've had any challenges, a lot of people we all have challenges with our parent relationships. So if you maybe struggled with like, you're a mom or you're growing up or whatever. It's amazing being pregnant, how it just brings all that up. And so being able to process all of that with the Lord, it's going to come up. So you need to have him close to help you navigate all of that. Because all of a sudden weird emotional things are going to come up that you're going to need to deal with. And usually it's in those 9 months of being pregnant.
And you're more hormonal during that time. Obviously it comes with the whole nature of it. And so, you know, it's like, it's harder in those moments to even like process things like correctly as well, because you could be thinking things that aren't even true, you know, about family members. Like, and so you just have to go to the Lord with everything. And I mean, in the Bible, it says, pray without ceasing. Like, that's not like a just cute sentiment or phrase. I mean, like literally it's a, you know, command essentially. It's just like pray without ceasing. So like to do that during the pregnancy and then when you have the baby. And so I think a lot of people think like, oh, if I'm not in my Bible for an hour a day, it didn't count. And my relationship with God is suffering. It's just like bring him into every part of it. While I'm changing this diaper, Lord Jesus, like help me to raise this baby the best that I possibly can. Just like help guide me in every decision that I make today. Because every day matters. Like if you bring him into it, like it'll just be like so much more fruitful. So it's just like really just laying that foundation. Like you already have the foundation ahead of time. That's what I'm asking. I'm just like asking you, please do that. And then now you're setting up that foundation with the baby too, of just like really like bringing them into that, having them hear you sing worship songs and like do that in the womb too. Like worship with your baby.
The other thing I was going to say is just how does that work practically? I just keep hearing the word discipline. Like it's preparing for that season of starting a family. It needs to begin with discipline, and a spiritual discipline, like meeting with the Lord every day, having him be like setting aside a time for him every day and building that discipline in your life. Taking care of your body is a discipline. Healing yourself emotionally, a discipline. Like you're building in discipline, because that will help you then, because you're going to get launched into a season of unpredictability that they change all the time. But if you've built discipline into your life, it's going to be this foundation that helps set you up to be able to navigate and handle the stresses that come with change and unpredictability and all of that. It's so hard to set those disciplines up in that season of your life. Does that make sense?
I think someone needs to hear this, but don't think of anyone else and their expectations of you when you're going through this journey. I think that so often there's like this generation that, you know, say the grandparents, right, of these babies that are going to be coming. And sometimes it can be easy to be like, when are you going to have kids? And just like have all those questions, you know, and don't do it to make someone else happy. You know, just like really remembering to stay in tune with the Lord and his perfect timing for you. Because it's like, we can't do anything out of pressure or expectation from other people. And it's just going to be a very poor decision. And of course, if that happens and, you know, you really were feeling like, oh, this is the time. And then it, you know, God works everything out for good, for sure. But that's just something I was like thinking about of like, don't do it for anyone else. And even if a husband and wife aren't on the same page, do not cut the condoms. Okay. And because that has happened. I had a person in my past that they were not on the same page. And so they would just snip a little hole in the condom, and that's how they got pregnant. And don't do that. Like, that is not a good choice. Like, that's not the way that God wants it. It's like he wants you in agreement, and he wants, and you know what? If you talk to your partner and tell them like, hey, I'm really feeling led in this way, like, would you pray about this? Because, and you hear like, oh, they're not quite ready. If you just ask them to pray about it, like, you would probably be amazed at like, oh yeah, like God will tell them when it's time, you know, if they hear the Holy Spirit. Because that's how it happened with Gary and I. Like, I knew right away, God told me. And then Gary's like, oh, I don't know. And so just pray about it. And they prayed about it. It's like, yep. And he knew. And so I was just thinking about that. But yeah, don't take on the pressure of it and just pray with your spouse. Like if you are wanting a spiritual life with your family and your baby in the future, just already start praying with your husband, because like that matters.
Yeah.
And God hears those prayers. I remember Gary and I, like after we had gotten pregnant, we would do this prayer journal together, and we wrote all of these different prayers for River, like way ahead of time. And I remember that one of the things that we really were longing for was like a baby that would like sleep through the night. And that was something that we started journaling about and asking the Lord for. And we look back onto it, and it's amazing because when she was 2 months old, she was completely sleeping through the night.
Wow.
Yeah, 8 hours a night.
That's
amazing. And it was. And I look at that and I'm just like, that was God, because I know that's not the case for everyone.
No.
But for us, man, I was grateful.
Yeah.
I was so grateful. And, 2 months, I'm like, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Because I know like there's some babies that's a year and that's still not the case.
Yeah.
So I do not take that for granted. So anyway, I'd say like, just pray about those things that really like matter to you. Another thing is there's so many people who are dealing with infertility. They're longing for a baby and they're asking God. And I believe that God wants to give us the desires of our heart.
Yes.
And so I just see people just having a conversation with God and just saying, God, you know where I'm at. You know I want this baby so desperately. God, show me the steps that I can take. Because, Rob and I, we were having a real conversation before we started recording today. I was having a really bad OCD spiral. And, sometimes that happens. And sometimes you have these days where it's just like, what is going on in my mind? And we need the Lord to just like help balance us and get us to like where we need to be. But we need his help in all things. And yeah, just really like look to him. Yeah. Because he's got us.
He does.
And we just like need his help with everything. But like we can't figure it all out on our own, and we need his wisdom and his insight. And I think that we just fall into that trap of like, oh, everything seems overwhelming and I can't figure out exactly what to do to like fix this. And you might even listen to this episode and you might think like, okay, I might need, certain things like in my body, and like, Lord, like just like help me navigate. Is there a test that I need to take? Is there a provider? Because all of that matters too. Yeah. Like finding the right person to have a baby. And it gets hard sometimes to find like people who are, on the same page as you as well. Because sometimes there's certain providers that, won't allow you to do some of the things that you want to do in your childbirthing, like the actual birth itself. And so just, really asking God for that too. He wants to be involved in all of this, but he's not going to like throw himself on us. Like we have to like invite him in. And one other thing that I put on there is just, obviously pay attention to when you ovulate if people don't know that, because it's not just like throwing something at a wall and trying like any day of the month that's gonna work, and so just a good reminder of like checking apps like Ovia. That one's great for tracking ovulation. It's also super helpful in helping people with tracking their menstruation too and their period, and that helps you later on in life as well, as I'm seeing in my 40s. But I've been tracking it with Ovia for a really long time. It's just really helpful to know where you're at with your tracking. And obviously there's, certain days that you have much higher chance of getting pregnant when you ovulate.
Yeah. And sperm can actually hang around for a while too, I think, which is sometimes important if you're trying to not get pregnant. Yeah. People will not realize how long they can hang around and think that they're in the safe zone for having intercourse, and not realizing that they're not.
I think that's, even as you're like coming down, right? Like because that's what happened to a friend of ours, and they said that at church not long ago, where it was like, oh, we thought we were in the safe zone, and then we realized like, nope, we were not. And they were warned too, where she was just like, I'm telling you what, like, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not, but it's like pretty close to that. And sure enough, 9 months later.
The other thing too, I was just thinking about is that birth control pills actually cause a ton of nutrient deficiencies and actually can shift your gut microbiome. There's a lot of different things to be thinking about with that, and that you really need to, just pray about it, like, and ask God, when am I supposed to not be on this anymore, if you are, and to help your body actually get back into a healthy place, nutrient wise, but also hormonally, like functioning as it should. And then learning like how to read your own body's signals. How do I know when I'm ovulating? A lot of people can tell. They can tell their cervical mucus, how that changes. But that takes learning to understand all that. So I think it's good to start thinking about, okay, when's the right time to start taking those out of the picture, and to being really cautious then about when are we having intercourse, or maybe using a barrier method or something additionally, but that you may actually want to think about getting that out of the picture a little sooner than you thought. I mean, a lot of people are like, and wait till the last minute, start a prenatal, and on the same day you stop your birth control and then 2 weeks later you're pregnant, it's all good. It's like, no, we actually need to start thinking about that earlier than that. But it can be scary for people because they're like, oh, I'm putting myself a little at risk maybe for having a baby earlier. But again, we have to trust God. We have to be wise, right? But there are more tools out there to help us kind of navigate that too. Even rings, like I'm wearing a ring that help, and it can track your temperatures and kind of help with you knowing when are you ovulating, when are you not. Because some women are kind of like, they do not know, they can't read the signs and know when they're ovulating. For me, it was really evident. I could tell. I would even get like side pain. I get cervical mucus changes that were really evident. It's almost like egg white mucus. I get that too. And that's obvious. Like, oh, now is peak time, right? So if you want to have a baby, that's when. But if you don't, you need to avoid it during that time. So anyway, it's just good to learn your body and how it works and all the cues, because all of that's really shut off when you're on birth control, if that's what you're using at this time. So something to think about. And yes, infertility, that can be such a really, really hard topic. I meet with a lot of people who struggle, and it's such a hurt that people can carry. And it's something that you really need to process with the Lord. I do believe God wants us to multiply, and He is all about life. And I believe that if it's in your heart, like God has it for you, however that may happen. But also, I think it's important. A lot of people don't realize fertility is not just a one-sided thing. It's not just the woman, and she can take all this pressure. It's my fault that things aren't going the way it should, or, but that, if we look at it, there's kind of 1/3 ends up being something physically with the female, 1/3 is male, and then 1/3 is we don't figure it out. So if you are struggling and it's been over 12 months, I would really think about having your husband get his semen tested. And you guys might want to think about, okay, what can we do? Do we want to do any further tests? Do we want to see what our toxin levels are like, what our nutrient status is? Pray about it though. And what should we do?
Don't just go down to the sperm bank behind his back and see if it really is that case. Is that the other version of cutting off the condom? Just, So yeah, pray about it, seek God, but maybe use it to get you as the healthiest place you can be, but do it in peace. Don't do it frantic and fear motivated, but God can use it. And I've seen God do that where people have come to me, we've worked on, okay, let's get you in a really healthy place. And we do, and within months they're pregnant, and their pregnancy then goes amazing because now their life has changed and they're living out a healthier life. And it just brings tears to my eyes, people coming in going, this is all because of what we did together. That's cool.
That I'm in this healthy place. I look at this beautiful baby now and I know it's because of all that work we did leading up to this.
That's cool.
Now, certainly some people do all of that and we still struggle, right? And this is the mysteries that sometimes we go, God, why? And we just don't understand.
So true.
But I'm believing that God even wants to do a miracle today. He's all about life.
Amen.
And so I just feel led to pray into that for people who are struggling or maybe even suffered loss, and they have this, even hearing about this brings up a hurt for them.
Right.
You know, that the Lord wants to heal all of that and restore and redeem. And so, Lord,
and not taking on shame, like if you have had a loss or anything like that.
It's so common.
It is
so common. Not everybody feels open to share about it, right? And so then they can feel alone. But man, so many women have suffered loss, and so it's important to be able to share it and be able to process and grieve.
Yeah, and just a good reminder too, if you have suffered with miscarriages or even infertility, just any of those, like, or had like maybe a stillborn, just so many different issues. But if you go to Options in Menominee, they have amazing resources. Now, they're not the only pregnancy help center, but they are the one in our area, and they're so great. If you go back and listen to the episodes that I did with Rhonda Luna, they were just so helpful, and they have classes to help people who have went through miscarriage, and they're so healing.
Yeah.
And so we definitely don't want you to listen to this and be like, oh wow, I had a miscarriage, and try to put the pieces together, and this is exactly why. It's because I didn't do this, or I didn't take that supplement, or whatever. Because the truth is, at the end of the day, we will not know, just like you said, with the mysteries and stuff. And so really, this is all just trying to equip you in the best way, and give you great resources. But it's definitely not to shame anyone or make them feel subpar
or inadequate.
Because I have had that, where I have a friend who had a really, really difficult pregnancy loss, and then heard something from someone, and then really took it on and was like, oh, it's because of that thing that I did, or whatever. It's like, my mom, she had a miscarriage before I was born. And she told me, recently, that she said, well, I went out and mowed the lawn, and was like even blaming it on that. Aww. And that mowing the lawn was possibly why she lost my older sister or brother, And so it's just, I think that, we can attach things to our mind and be like, it's this happened and then that happened, and then we're placing blame on ourselves, and just like the importance of not doing that, because like that's not how God wants this to be,
right?
At all.
I think one other thing to just keep in mind is people will often blame themselves, but if they don't, they'll sometimes blame God, and God doesn't take life; He gives it.
Yeah.
And so it's important to know the thief comes, the enemy, to steal, to kill, and to destroy. God is the author of life, not the taker of it. And so sometimes people are struggling with that loss and angry maybe at God. But so it's important to know that our Father is good, that He doesn't bring these horrible things that happen, but He certainly can redeem, and He certainly wants to bring healing in your life.
Yeah.
And there are just certain things that we will not understand this side of heaven.
Yes.
And we have to be okay with that. And the only thing that really helps ground me in all the tragedies of life is knowing the one thing I know, and that is God is good.
Yeah.
And so, Lord, I just lift up everyone listening today. I especially lift up people who have suffered loss, whether that's a miscarriage or a stillborn, or maybe they've never been able to get pregnant and they so desperately want it. Lord, I lift them up, and I ask, Lord, that you would do a healing miracle in them, first restoring their soul, that they would feel and know your love right now, that none of this is your fault, that God didn't do this to you, but that He loves you, and that He wants you to have life, and life abundantly. And Lord, I ask that your Holy Spirit would then heal their body, that if their greatest desire is to have a child, that Lord, you would do that creative miracle and bring life to them. And Lord, I thank you for meeting them right where they are right now. And Lord, I pray over people who are contemplating having a family, navigating how and when. I pray that they would develop a close relationship with you, and that you would really guide them through every step of preparation, physically, emotionally, spiritually, preparing them. And I pray that it would all be done with grace and with peace, Lord, not fear. And I thank you for bringing people into their path that can help them in that journey. And I thank you for it. You're such a faithful, faithful God. Amen. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. If you liked what you heard, make sure you share it with your friends and also subscribe. So when we do release a new episode, you will be the first to know it.
And please be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook. We also have a new Facebook group where you guys can come in and dive into conversation with us, ask us questions. So we would love to see you there as well.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you there.